What would you do if you found out you're pregnant and the baby's father has a contract with you that literally forbids it? B said, fuck it, of course. So B ran from the master contract along with her precious cargo. Damian Cross, while running for this state presidency campaign, ran smack into his mini-me. Not one, but two. Hi. Let messy politics begin.
5 years back. Congrats, Bia, the Genie said. You're in perfect health, except for one curveball. You're about 6 weeks pregnant. And it's twins. Curveball? More like a wrecking ball, you mean? Heck, I wasn't supposed to have kids. Not now, not under this contract. The contract spelled it out in bold, screaming letters. No pregnancy allowed during contract term. Conceiving a child outside wedlock counts as breach. If it happens, termination is mandatory. So yeah, that's why I've been running ever since. Because my kids made it through. Born loud, messy, and beautiful. They were the living, breathing proof of something technically weren't even supposed to exist. 4.5 years later. North Bay City. The far north part of this port city became my latest stepping stone. Little feet stomped across the floor, scurrying everywhere, checking out the new place. A little old, a little shabby, but to me it felt just right for a family of one, plus 2 4-year-old tinies. Mommy, I like this place. We can build a giant snowman here, Chloe declared, her pigtails bouncing as she yanked on my coat. And maybe there are dolphins in that river. Kai said aloud, his nose flat against the huge glass window with a full view of the river stretching into the port. Yeah, in case you're new to this, in the Omegaverse, the one who gives birth gets called Mom, even if the Omega's first nature is a male. So yeah, that's me. Yes, Chloe, it's perfect for snowmen. I answered my daughter. And I hope we'll spot dolphins from here too, I told my son. And to myself, I desperately hope Batman will never, ever track us down here. Because, apart from snowman and dolphins, how do you explain the twisted algebra of grown-up mess to 4-year-olds? How do you put in simple words to 4-year-olds that their narcissist father had a private scout, code-named Batman, on my tail after all these years? Yeah, no. That's the one math lesson I'd make sure my babies will never, ever get. I've already learned my survival formula. Never stay too long in one place, and always have an escape plan, snow or no snow. This was our third move in 4 years. Back when they were toddlers, Kai and Chloe were too small to notice the first two. But now, at 4.5, they were already starting to feel it, that low-level disquiet, what the doctors might call adjustment stress, even if they didn't have the words for it yet. Still, lucky me, they seemed to like this new place. After settling in, took the kids down to the courtyard for their first play. I stood there watching as my twins stomped through crisp northern snow, their laughter bouncing off the walls of the little apartment block we now called home. For a second, it almost felt normal. But life with me is never quiet. It's a full-time sport, staying one step ahead of Damian Cross, the alpha with shark teeth hidden behind campaign smiles, the same man now clawing his way toward the state's presidency, also the father of my kids and my walking migraine. I still shake my head at the absurdity of it all. My absurd beginning with Damian started the day I lost a week's worth of food and somehow landed a job. Don't ask me how that math works. Picture this, me, crying over busted groceries, when out of nowhere I end up foiling a blindside attack on Lillian Cross, Damian's mother that was. How did I do it? By turning my poor 1 week worth of dinners into deadly weapons of flying turnips and big fat radish sticks. I even threw in a couple of sardine cans for extra damage. Somewhere between the smashed vegetables and my ruined paycheck from painting the building next door, I got discovered. Through a chain of bizarre events, I went from broke handyman to Lillian Cross's second personal bodyguard. And then, through an even stranger twist, I ended up as Damian's kept Omega for 5 years. Don't ask. Long story. I was desperate, okay? Back then, I had only $500 in my pocket and meals running 30 a day these days. Do the math. With one signature, I said goodbye to the cement mixing, bricks hauling, the cash register, and yes, even the wet butts of the neighborhood pooches I'd been walking. All of it gone. Just like that. For 3 years, I lived sealed up in one of Damien's private residences. Top secret, hush hush. I never even saw a neighbor outside our penthouse doors the whole time. That's how careful Damien Cross was. The man polishing his halo for the state presidency couldn't risk the press sniffing out the truth, that behind his campaign smiles and family values speeches, he had a contract-bound Omega tucked away as his carnal outlet. Yeah, I was his kept dominant alpha carnal outlet, his stress dump, his pressure valve, his private disposal unit. Pick whichever word makes you gag the least. Don't be fooled by his suit and tie bookish look. Even this all-time desk jockey alpha has strength miles above the rest of us. And with our pheromones a perfect match, lucky me, the contract became sustainable. Our nightly endurance drills turned routine. His stamina, like an Energizer bull, kept me betting on which would break first. Him, me, or the bed frame. Oh, and mind you, Damien Cross was already engaged. Yeah. To Asher Green. Another male Omega of prominent pedigree, and, conveniently tucked away overseas chasing a 3-year master's degree. Well, you might think that while Asher was off collecting credits and citations, I was stuck here just playing Cross's chew toy and collecting bruises and bedtimes? No way I'm that stupid. 3 years in Cross's golden cage meant 3 years of steady Wi-Fi, free meals, and 0 rent plus pocket money. I took full advantage. I finally finished the degree that I had kept continuing and stopping whenever money ran dry. I leveled up with a full degree with honor in early childhood psychology and education, from one of the city's most reputable universities. Fancy, right? Damien thought I was his secret, but turns out I was studying him all along. Years of living together bred a weird sort of fluency. Damien was a career man through and through, the kind who ate campaign strategy for breakfast and still had energy left over for what to come after dark. Somewhere along the line, we stopped playing sugar daddy and sugar baby. Sometimes he'd unload gossip about his backstabbing political rivals, real Game of Thrones, but with worse suits. Other times, we'd spar with mind games, tossing riddles and sarcasm back and forth like old couple doing foreplay. Cute metaphors never fit me. A pet bunny? Too soft. A sultry fox? My Omega feature, yes but no too sly. I like to think of myself more like a badass Maine Coon cat with attitude, claws when crossed, purrs when fed. For Damien? He couldn't get enough of it. One morning, a meteor of bad news struck. All the top priority protocols, every meticulous precaution I'd kept, or so I thought, undone in an instant when biology hacked my system. Everything shattered the day that little stick showed 2 pink lines. Hands trembling. Every contract clause screamed not allowed. Forbidden. In my head. Those 2 pink lines? Boom. Not the death sentence, but exactly the opposite. Stars in my eyes, for to me, this was a miracle. And it's mine. You see, I had been orphaned young. A catastrophic fire razed my hometown and took my family with it, leaving me to grow up in an orphanage where affection came in ration doses. And now the life growing inside me, tiny, stubborn, alive, felt like the family I had been craving ever since. Call me sentimental, call me Omega-brained. For once, it wasn't about survival, it was about belonging. About making myself a home out of the cruel joke life had dealt me. But the contract didn't care about miracles or feelings, it demanded termination. A pregnancy was a straight-up career ender. And parenthood? Yeah, right. Unless I could somehow find a sugar daddy who was infertile. Right now I was basically a ticking time bomb with a very official, break me and lose everything label. Hey wait. Maybe I should nudge Damien a little bit, to find out what he'd think of having a baby, huh? If there's any chance he could accept his own flesh and bone? By late that night, my eyes landed on Damien's naked back as I watched him taking a shower in the all-glass stall. Muscles rolling under fair skin like liquid marble. Water cascaded down his top back, dripped and pooled just so, accentuating the dangerous symmetry of his physique. Such a fine specimen, I sighed. Then I turned and caught my reflection in the mirror. Staring, I traced my features that had somehow captivated Damien. Porcelain skin, raven hair spilling like satin across his snow-white shoulder. My face, the perfect siren, every subtle movement dripping omega energy. I knew my pull. I had always been confident of my pull. So I pulled out my best move to test the waters. Damien, do you think? I mean, what if we, had a baby? He froze mid-dry, towel in hand, and blinked at me once. Unreadable. Neither disgusted nor entirely approving, but unmistakably stern. I panicked. That was a face Damien had never shown me in all our years together. Like a cat spotting a cucumber, I quickly rephrased. I mean your fiancée, what if your fiancée was pregnant with your child? He snorted. Know your place, Bia, he said casually. Don't ask that sort of question. What does that tell me? It told me the reality that a kept canary couldn't daydream about becoming Mrs. Cross. I knew then it was time to activate an escape plan. Oh, and of course, Asher Green was returning to the country. Perfect timing. After finishing a master's degree, what else was there left to do for a fiancé if not to tie the knot with his fiancée? Even better, my golden exit window. Not a single minute to waste. While Damien went home to be with his fiancée for a week, I began dismantling 3 years of entanglement. First stop, the hospital to confirm the pregnancy. That was when I heard the sweetest voice from a real human say, "Congrats, Bia. You're about 6 weeks pregnant. And it's twins." Then came the fun part, converting all the luxuries Damien had showered on me into cold, hard cash. I started with the jewelry, slipping them into pawn shops and discreet auctions. Watches, designer clothes bags and arts all sold to top-dollar buyers online. Because cash is God. By day 5, my bank account reflected nearly $500,000. Every liquidatable item had been liquidated. Enough to start a new life comfortably on his own for a while, even without a job. In the days counting down to my escape, I kept up the act of a lonely canary waiting for his daddy. Having the housekeeper cook my favorite dishes, even though I ate alone, because Damien never forgot to check on me, even when he wasn't home. On a Monday afternoon, 3 hours before Damien's promised return, I dragged my one lightweight suitcase with a few essentials and walked out of the luxury prison I'd called home for almost 50 months. By the airport boarding gate, my tears soaked my pants while curious onlookers gawking at me texting Damien. "Damien, I've been happy the whole time with you. But I can't afford to pay you for missing out 2 contract year. Guess you'll have to consider it a very generous gift to me. But hey, you never needed the money anyway. I wish you and Asher Green have a happy life, till your hair goes gray. Goodbye, Damien." December air in the northeast stabbed through my coat the second I stepped out of the airport. Sterling City. Never been here. Nobody I knew. No couch to crash on. But hey, I had money, so survival was the plan. I picked this cold little nowhere on purpose. Everything Damien liked, this place was the opposite. Slower, cheaper than the capital, easier to land a teaching job later, and perfect for raising kids under the radar. That new year, I watched the sky blow up in a riot of color. Fireworks throwing tantrums, drones buzzing around like miniature helicopters, while I occasionally hugged the wash basin to catch whatever my stomach threw back at me. Morning sickness was winning the heavyweight championship, and I was basically a zombie extra in a bad horror flick. Carrying twins? No joke, all the wrongs came by double. The following early autumn, and along came my screaming twins. Kai first, then Chloe. Fresh from my C-section, they looked like pissed-off wrinkleberries, puny, and already judging the world. No family, no friends in sight in a foreign city, hands overflowing. Basically a single mom with double trouble, minus the support system. Fortunately, that was not the worst. I had money. I paid for an extra-long hospital stay, refusing to leave until I could walk without groaning, and the twins were sturdy enough to survive my rookie parenting. Turned out, twins like mine, a dragon phoenix pair, were rarer than an albino cub at a zoo. Curious eyes glued to their bassinet outside the glass. Even the local welfare folks pitched in, checking on the single Omega dad. Chaos aside, it was strangely comforting. It felt like I wasn't entirely invisible. 7 days later, I dragged myself and my newborn twins home. I was a walking zombie, barely holding it together, but neighbors kept appearing with soups, stews, and endless patience. I never expected to get this lucky ending up in a random neighborhood like this. After the welcome home hoopla died down, I watched Kai and Chloe sprawled in their bassinets, their tiny chests rising in unison. Tears blurred my vision. After growing up alone, I finally had 2 sets of 10 fingers and toes to call my own real family. Things had been sailing blissfully for 2 years, until one day on my way home, I got stopped by Batman. "Mr. Cross is looking for you, Bea," he said. "Why?" "I don't owe him anything," I said, incredulous. "I wasn't told the reason either," Batman admitted, keeping his professional cool. "My job is to find you and bring you back." I agreed to the fake appointment for tomorrow, just to keep Batman off my back for a few hours. That night, I packed up the twins, slammed the car door, and drove through the dark, empty roads to the nearest city. Felt like a rat in a maze with 2 tiny tyrants for company, but hey, at least I was the one leading the chase. Hence, my first escape. Half a year later, Batman found us again. That was the last straw. I decided to run even further this time. No shortcuts, no second chances. Whoever thought raising twins alone in a foreign city was hard, clearly hadn't tried, outrunning a relentless ex. This year, I decided to enroll the twins in Cloudberry Kindergarten, mainly because I'd just been hired to teach there. Teaching and keeping an eye on the twins under one roof saved a ton of money I'd otherwise have to blow on a nanny. Meanwhile, back in the capital, Damien's face dominated the political news. 10 months into his vice presidential campaign, he was constantly on the move. Rallies, fundraisers, press conferences, interviews, you name it. Every stop was a parade of camera flashes, sharp suits, and that infuriatingly perfect smile, as if the world were supposed to bow. The day nanny, Auntie May, sat on the couch, hands folding dumplings kung fu master level, suddenly called out, "Mr. Bea." She pointed at the screen. "Your baby boy Kai really does look a lot like this top guy, eh?" I peeked from the kitchen. Shit. But I kept my cool, denying. "Nay, my boy looks more like Park Bo-gum," I muttered, trying to laugh it off. Auntie May shrugged, and went back to her dumplings like nothing had happened. With the nanny's back turned, I shamelessly stole a few more minutes staring at that familiar alpha's face. Then, what the hell? I nearly choked on the soup I was slurping when I caught sight of the cheap turquoise unicorn scarf, tucked under Damien's pristine white shirt as he stood poised for a photo. The same tacky thing I'd bought him from a riverside vendor on one of our sneaky night dates. He'd only worn it once, then left it forgotten in a pile in his luxury accessories drawer. And now, bam! A neon sucker punch joke against his power haute couture. Life in a small town was supposed to have nothing to do with this. Supposedly couldn't touch my simple, blissfully unremarkable life. Yet my phone, like a vindictive little ghost, kept spitting out financial alerts plastered with Damien's name. Damn that Google algorithm, feeding me exactly what it thought I needed to see, as if my sanity were optional. Working at the kindergarten was my total refuge. Nothing reminded me life wasn't all contracts, politics, and pesky detective like a room full of tiny screaming, 2-legged chaos machines. My students adored me, mostly because I tolerated the chaos better than their parents. "Teacher Bea!" a 6-year-old boy yelled, holding up his drawing. Chloe added 5 horns to my horse. She also glued hair to my horse. I leaned back against the table, hands on my hips, and let out a dramatic sigh. Of course she did. Perfect. This calls for a contest. Let's see who can build the funniest, most ridiculous horsey in the entire world. Kai and Chloe loved the snow. They loved snowball fights, snow angels, and turning the backyard into a battlefield of imaginary villains. My mini-me Chloe, her creations always carefree, had piled a mound of snow that looked like nothing at all, but she proudly insisted it was a snow troll. Kai, on the other hand, my mini Damien, was all business. Only 4 years old, his every shoving, every snowflake of his snow sculpture was calculated, precise, like he was building something to last a century. Even his tiny brows puckered in the cutest concentration. Only Chloe and I could crack that poker face. For the first time in ages, I felt like I could actually breathe. At least until Batman decided to track us down again, which, let's be real, hadn't happened in 2 years. Maybe Damien finally gave up the hunt. Seriously, what could he want from me that I could even give? By now he was married, even had a little girl about the same age as my twins. An enviable life with no room for me or my messy loud little troublemakers. Spring finally rolled around, and with it, the first ever kindergarten field trip, Science Fair edition in the Satellite City. Whole school going. And the principal suddenly appearing in heels that could kill. The moment the school bus rolled up to City Hall, my brain short-circuited. Banners. Everywhere you looked, banners. Of Damien grinning from every lamppost, every wall, I didn't want to look at, as if the city had suddenly elected a superhero. Pressing her little face against the window, Chloe was the first to spot it. "Angel Papa!" she yelled, pointing at one of the giant posters. I quickly cupped a hand over her mouth, cheeks on fire, ignoring questioning eyes from the teachers. Yeah, I admit it. At home, I thought to kill any future questions from the kids later about their father. I had gone for the lazy and convenient, "Papa went to heaven" line. Even had it all set up. A small i5 photo of Damien by the TV, I printed from internet, a vase of flowers, even got the twins leaving leftover pizza or carrot cubes as offerings sometimes. Thought I was a genius. Then, bam! Papa Damien's billboard hits, grinning down like he owns the city. Totally wrecked my neat little plan. The city hall was a madhouse. Reporters snapping photos, campaigners yelling slogans. Safety protocol kicked in. Ropes tied around the kids' waists, turning them into a wobbling, giggling human train. As the only male teacher, I led the front like a conductor with a yellow flag and nerves on fire. Of course, chaos anticipated. Midway through the crowd, Kai and Chloe slipped out. Teacher Bia. Kai and Chloe went that way. With a big man in a checkered hat. A kid yelled, tugging my pants. 1 second, they were rolling in the line behind me, the next, gone. My blood ran ice cold. Panic slammed into my chest like a dodgeball I couldn't dodge. I tore through the hall, following the pointed direction, scanning corners, dodging camera flashes. My lungs screamed for air. Then, like something out of a movie, the noise quickly ebbed, and the crowd parted like the Red Sea in the 1956 Ten Commandments. And there he was, Damien. Tall, impossible, crisp three-piece suit, like he'd walked off a magazine cover. Both my twins in his arms. Kai, wide-eyed, clutching a T-Rex. Chloe, hugging a panda plush, arm draped around Damien's neck like she belonged there. Camera flashes popped. Reporters shouted questions, flew non-stop. Damien walked straight toward me, all slow motion with the vibe of Edward Cullen entering the cafeteria. And for a split second, I swear, the banners, the chaos, the screaming kids, even my blood pressure, they all vanished. 4 years. And suddenly he was here, and my twins were safe. I wanted to say something smart, witty, or sarcastic. Instead, I just blinked like an idiot, taking in all the ridiculous perfection of the moment. After that, the trip became a blur of joy. Not for me, of course, but all the kindergarten kids. Candidate Cross handed out top-of-the-line microscopes to every Cloudberry kindergarten kid, and our school got a mountain of science sets, so much that the bus practically groaned under the weight. The twins wouldn't stop chattering, showing off their exclusive panda and T-Rex like they'd just conquered the world. And me? I plastered on a fake smile while my brain was already plotting an escape, uprooting, and a third runaway plan. Back home, I flew into a tornado of packing chaos. The twins stared at me like I'd sprouted a second head. Then, the doorbell. And not just a polite ding-dong. No. This one hit like a cannon. My blood froze. Time slowed. Nobody moved a muscle. The bell rang again. And again. Frenzy. Pure auditory chaos. Kai, of course, acted his 4 years old. He bolted and pulled back the door open like he always opened for Auntie May each morning. And there he was. Damien. My absolute worst nightmare, standing right there on my doorstep in the flesh. Half a bottom off-white shirt, sleeves rolled up, looking like a tall, annoyingly perfect statue. And behind him, Batman. That checkered hat, that damn creep, the one who'd snatched my twins at the science fair. How dare you? I had 3 seconds to process. 1, I should call the cops. 2, maybe negotiate with Damien like a rational human. 3, probably scream. Option 3 out, because I am not a woman. But before I could pick an option, Chloe squawked, "Angel Papa!" Her little butt slipped off the sofa and bolted toward the door like a rocket. Damien bent low to my mini-me's height, his voice deep but soft. "Hi, little angel baby. Can you invite me in?" And really, what 4-year-old could resist? The man was a gentle giant, a toy box already gleaming seductively in his hands. Just barely 2 hours ago he'd already bribed his way into sainthood, with gifts in boxes taller than Chloe herself. In Chloe's little mind that sealed the deal, that angel papa equaled good man. End of story. She spun to me, eyes wide, clutching her exclusive panda. "Mama, can you open the grill gate for this angel papa?" I nearly choked on my own spit. The irony was killing me. I wanted to scream, "No, baby girl. That's not an angel, that's the devil incarnate." The man I'd spent years dodging. He was probably already cooking up 20 different ways to wring my neck, and a neat little legal grenade, some non-fulfillment threat, or a 50-page custody suit locked and loaded. And yet, there I was, hand on the latch, unlocking the gates of hell like I was live commentating my own downfall. Chloe slipped her little hand and grabbed Damien's pinky finger, yanking him straight inside. He stepped through like the doorway might bite, careful not to brush against me. I stood stiff as stone, watching. Inside, Chloe hugged his leg. "Why'd you come, mister?" He bent down to her eye level. "Because your mom and I were old friends." Chloe pressed a finger to her lips, giggling with eyes sparkling. He, friends, like she was sharing a secret with this stranger angel papa. The way he dragged that word friends hit me like a gut punch. Memories of tangled sheets and breathless nights I swore I'd forget, all of it rushed me at once. His cheeks burned red, and then his eyes locked on mine like a dare. Then Damien let his gaze wander the apartment, slow, and cutting my space to pieces. "You raising my kids in this closet?" Disdain sharpening in his face with every detail he clocked. "Oh yeah? What's it to you?" I snapped. This whole 800-square-foot apartment probably looked like a walk-in wardrobe to him. But then, wait. Did he just say his children? How the hell did he know? Right, must be the great work of that damn checkered hat Batman and his digging and stalking. "We need to talk," Damien said. Game over. We both knew it. His next move was going to change everything. Damien crouched on one knee, eyes locked on the twins. No words, just a stare so sharp I half worried it might burn holes straight through them. Chloe, of course, couldn't care less, proudly introduced this angel papa to everything she owned, including Miss Betty, the exclusive panda she'd just named on the spot. Meanwhile, Damien's mini-me trailed behind, showing off the exclusive T-Rex he'd trained to say, "I don't like carrot." After an eternity, he broke the silence. "Care to explain how you pulled off raising 2 little humans of my DNA?" My laugh came out thin, brittle. "Who said they're yours?" "Nice try, Bia." From his inner pocket, Damien pulled a folded sheet, flicked it open, and shoved it in my face. The bold headline, "Paternity Report," slapped harder than any words. All my comebacks, all my rehearsed spins practiced 4 years, evaporated in that instant. Damn DNA test, But, how? When did you test them? 2 days ago, Damien said, clipped, not hiding. Before my campaign here. And how exactly did you? Don't ask. Damien cut my words short, his guilty eyes flicked sideways. Ha! Batman, of course. That man's fingerprints were all over this stunt. My shoulders sagged. No way to spin out of this. Fine, I muttered, tasting defeat. They're yours. Happy now. Ecstatic. That's the only word for the way Damien's entire body lit up. In 2 strides he had me off the ground, caged in his arms, holding me so tight I thought he'd fuse me into his bones. His face buried against mine, breath hot into the crook of my neck, and my treacherous body remembered. His alpha scent, sharp, intoxicating, like pine wood dabbed in distilled gin water. The same one I'd beaten back with suppressant shots, and by pressing the twins' unwashed clothes to my face through every heat cycle. The solid line of his chest pressed to mine. The rough pad of his thumb sweeping the nape of my neck, and the steady claim of his palm spanning my ribs as if to remind me exactly where I fit. He bent his head, his voice rasping at my ear. 5 years, Bia. 5 years of turning your hometown upside down, and the next, while you nested in this backwater town. His grip clamped down on my shoulders. Come home with me, Bia. Home? I shot back. To what? Your gilded bunker? Our contract expired long ago. Nothing ties me to you anymore. The children, Damien blurted. His reply sharp. They bind us tighter than paper ever could. Do you realize what I've missed? First steps. First words. Double of every firsts. Stolen. He wasn't wrong. But I didn't care. I shoved against his chest, furious. So you barge in now and think you can take my kids? Show up with some shiny toys and suddenly back in the dark? Over my dead body. Bia, Damien said, you were the one who ran. You kept them from me. My anger snapped, too raw to leash. Wrong. I protected them. From your contract. From you. These kids wouldn't even exist if I'd stayed. You think the Great Cross family would tolerate illegitimate heirs in the daylight? Damien had no retort, because every word I'd thrown at him was truer than the Bible. Instead, he just pulled me back into his chest, arms locked around me like a man trying to anchor himself before the storm swallowed him whole. And there, in the cramped hallway of my 800-square-foot apartment, he held on for a long time. Too long. Long enough that I almost forgot why I'd been running in the first place. Since when did my traitorous self start obeying him? Because, the days that followed turned Damien into our own personal overlord, juggling his campaign duties by day and obsessive parenting by night. He swore up and down he wasn't missing another first again. First stand on one foot, first pedal a balance bike, first worm dug out of the flower bed. You name it, he was there with a front row ticket. The twins ate it up, cheering like he'd just handed them a lifetime supply of gummy bears. My traitorous offspring. And me? Mommy got voted out of his own dictatorship. The kids bargained like little mob bosses, and apparently my veto power came with no backup. To cement his rights to the twins, Damien flat out bought the corner unit 1 block over. Because apparently real estate was just another snack food in his world. Remodeled it in record time, and then all but dragged me and the twins in like we were luggage. And boom, suddenly, he was the rightful tenant, and I was demoted to unwilling roommate. Damien wasted no time to destroy that A5 print of himself on that fake altar I created. The man even had the gall to tell the kids he was their real papa, back from heaven for good. And did they question it? Of course not. 4-year-olds don't grasp squat, except that now, they had a live-action action figure to parade at school. Meanwhile, every time I watched him bond with them, teaching Kai how to build a Lego fortress, or letting Chloe cover his suit jacket in princess stickers, it twisted the knife. Because damn it, this wasn't supposed to be his victory lap. Damien's campaign in this town was done. But he didn't leave, didn't head back to the capital. He just shelved his next tour and parked himself in the apartment 24/7. Like some Brazilian cockroach, hard shell and attitude, scuttling where he didn't belong. Like some broke alpha on vacation, the sly fox kept things cool, dutifully chauffeuring me and the kids to school every morning and back, under a hoodie, cap, and a mask. Yesterday, Auntie May was dishing up braised pork and hot pot spread when I came home, my arms full of skewers and sides. And there he was in sweatpants, knocked out on the couch with both kids passed out on his broad chest, while the cartoons still buzzing on the TV. Pajamas could really change a man. What was next? Sunday, North Bay City Night Market. It was supposed to be a harmless family stroll through the night market. Me, the twins, and this sticky alpha dude, doing our awkward co-parenting between stalls of fried squid, plastic toys, and enough neon to blind a pop. Kai and Chloe were bouncing from one distraction to the next. Sugar-dipped candy hawthorns, paper shadow puppets, flickering on yellow screen. I blinked and then, poof, they disappeared. Chloe? Kai? I went panic mode. A grim replay of the terror I'd felt back in that Science City hall. Damien's head cursed himself 6 ways to Sunday at his own carelessness, then whipped around like some ADHD hawk. Frantic search. We split, weaving through the crowd, shoving past tourists, the smell of grilled chestnuts making me want to throw up from nerves. My stomach bottomed out with every second my babies were not in sight. My feet carried me almost to the end of the street in my search, until Damien's roar hey cut through the crowd. Somewhere close. I spun toward the sound and saw him charging like a bull. My heart froze. There they were, my kids. An elder lady hustling them, my kids tucked under each of her armpits like 2 sacks of country cabbages, as she arrowed down a shadowed side lane. She looked like a tiny granny, but she was moving fast. As I closed in, her voice rang out, sharp and loud, accusing Damien of being the kidnapper and warning him to stay away. "Wait, Damien!" I shouted and bolted after him. But too late. Damien moved, lunged, intending to wrestle back his kids. The grandma plopped my twins onto the ground with a scolding, "Stay put!" Then she whirled to face Damien charging in. All 4'9" of her, wielding a bamboo umbrella like Excalibur, and she wrecked him. I knew that move, it was straight out of a Shaolin movie. Her swings had the unmistakable flair of monkey stick kung fu. Whoa! I cursed myself for even blinking once, and missed out a second fraction of seeing my 6-foot campaign poster Alpha whipped flat on the ground. One slap to his face, swipe to the shin, one jab to his ribs, and Damien went down like a sack of potatoes. I couldn't help it. A laugh threatened to escape, right there in the chaos, watching the mighty Damien reduced to a groaning heap by a tiny granny armed with a bamboo umbrella. The twins squealed, not in fear, oh no, but in absolute delight. Kai especially couldn't contain himself. "Grandma! Grandma! You're a superhero!" Chloe cheered, candy skewer still clutched in her sticky little hand. Turned out, Granny was the ma of the big bro of this alley. She wasn't kidnapping. She was hauling my runaways straight to the small tourist beat base tucked at the end alley, grumbling the whole way about reckless parents. Damien staggered to his feet, shirt askew, ego in shreds. His cheek already swelling. I almost felt bad. I patted Damien's back and deadpanned. "Relax, champ. You just got knocked out by someone's ma. Pretty sure you will earn her vote for your election." The twins, traitors as always, clung to their new idol, begging Granny coquettishly for more kung fu moves. And their cute begging? An instant hit, turning hundreds of onlookers into puddles. Meanwhile, Damien shot me a look like he'd rather face a dozen paparazzi scandals than one more 60-second spar with the elderly. Tonight, watching Damien's bruised face slowly bloat into pig-headed absurdity, I saw his protection instinct for my twins. Admiration surged through me, a cocktail of oxytocin and endorphins warming me from the inside out. In my psychology training, that move would be classified as textbook paternal attunement. Ah! I let out a quiet sigh. How I wish that this fleeting harmony could be mine permanently. "Can I crash in your room tonight?" "I'm hurt," Damien asked, voice sheepish. Face all swollen and blue-black in the most absurdly comical way. "You've got balls asking that," I shot back, but my words vanished the second his lips hit mine. Warm breath, that's Damien's signature. It hit me square in the knees. Damn! His hoarse whisper voice sounded dangerously tempting. Bea. I've missed you so much my balls hurt, he murmured, and I had to fight not to melt entirely. The next morning, Kai and Chloe stormed my bedroom. No knocking, obviously. 4-year-olds don't do manners. And there we were. Me, completely naked, and Damien's arms still wrapped around me like he owned the place. Crap! Fortress status, officially breached. Last night's adults-only zone? Gone. Kaput. My face was on fire as my tiny demons bombarded me with a chorus of, "Can we sleep in Mama's bed too tonight? Please, please, please." All while I fumbled their breakfast like half-dead zombie, trying not to expose the protest of my sore bones. Curse that alpha bastard. Ever since my fortress fell, this shameless dude's been treating my bedroom like his personal lounge. In the dead of night, where every household filled with snoring, my bedroom filled with explosive human whispers. I missed you. I want you. I need this. Clashing against my sharp and desperate. Idiot. Slow down. Stop. No more. The moans, smacks, and guttural growls bouncing off the walls leave me half-dazed, half-melted, and completely undone. At sunrise, I'd staggered around, making breakfast like a zombie on catwalk, my waist bones screaming protest. And the two little turncoats, launching themselves onto Mama's bed like it's a trampoline, leaving me extra work to have to ship them back to their nursery after they crashed. Suddenly, I was the bad cop, and Papa's the goody two-shoes. Effortlessly flipping the script every time I say, "N-O." And me? The only one stumbling through this surreal mess. Since when did kids get this sharp? Those wide mischievous eyes said it all. What did I even raise? Tiny little monsters? I admit it, I couldn't help it. This dude snapped his fingers, and my financial burdens suddenly vanished. Yep, me, dependent on Damien. How's that for self-deprecation? I didn't think so. The canary in me, the tiny cheeky part that always sang its own tune, didn't feel an ounce of shame. But then, I knew the reality. All good things eventually must come to an end. No sweet dreams lasted forever. Sooner or later, we always had to wake up. In my case, I was rudely awakened by a phone call. A few evenings before returning to the capital, I was cooking dinner while the kids were glued to Peppy Pig on Nick's flicks. Damien had ghosted into the kitchen, arms sliding around my waist, breath teasing my neck. "What's for dinner?" he murmured. I'd felt a shiver run down my spine, and I couldn't deny the way my heart had skipped a beat, even as I rolled my eyes at myself. I wriggled free. "Go set the table," I barked, fully aware of the trouble brewing under my loose t-shirt. Of course, his hands didn't get the memo. They dove straight up, groping like a curious raccoon. Feels bigger. Thanks to pregnancy, I guess. My heart slammed against my ribs like it was trying to escape. I wanted to smash the fat big white radish I'd picked up at the morning market onto that damn head. Get out before I... Then his phone blared from the kitchen counter like a fire alarm with attitude, cutting through the passionate chaos. He shot a glare at the caller ID, and I couldn't see who it was. Finally, he let go of my shirt to grab the phone. Snatching the call, he disappeared onto the balcony. That night, after he'd tucked the little zap-out human batteries into their crib, he came and sat behind me on the TV couch. Wrapping his arms around me, he acted all clingy. "What?" "Spilled," I spat. "Bea, do you still want me?" Oh, I knew that question. I could practically smell where it came from, and where it might lead. I'm a psychology grad, remember? Even if I say yes, be real, Damien, you still can't do a damn thing about it. Damien stayed silent. I couldn't see his face, just the heat of him pressed behind me, the grip of his arms tight enough to betray every ounce of tension he was holding in. I knew he was wrestling his desire against everything stacked on his plate. And I could guess why, torn between what he desired and what he couldn't have. I did wondered at times how my two little monsters managed to work their magic Harry Potter wands, luring their papa across 900 kilometers here. Or if that was not the case, then it had to be, maybe, just maybe, he'd grew a spark of real love for me. But no matter the reason, he was still a married man to the public, the next vice state president if he won. And me? A nobody. I had zero intention of being a homewrecker. Go home, Damien, I finally said, my voice soft, solemn. Silence hung heavy. The heavy tension hanging in the air made the terror in Train to Busan, now playing on the TV, look like a Tom and Jerry. I didn't intend to trap him at some impossible crossroads. Our little fling was supposed to be hush-hush, a forbidden apple in a secret garden. I didn't encourage him either. I knew I could handle life with the twins on my own, thank you very much. So, I just let him figure things out on his own. I just lent him my shoulders, like a gilded canary who knew exactly how to play the part. 2 days later, I found myself summoned to the kindergarten principal's office, handed a teary farewell and a paycheck like some twisted parting gift. When I returned to the apartment, my eyes nearly popped out of my sockets. Kai and Chloe were shrieking in horror at the sight of our home packed into neat suitcases and boxes. Movers buzzed in and out like caffeinated working ants. That absolute bastard. By the third morning, I landed at the capital's airport. My face dark enough to scare off small animals. All 4 of us traveled incognito, cloaked in hoodies, masks and shades, because Damien showing up with his private collection could probably tanked his clean man political look. Meanwhile, Damien was over there, belting out a Damien Cross remix of Itsy Bitsy Spider, while he juggled the twins like some one-man circus act. The Cross entourage descended like an overly dramatic flash mob, hustling all of us into a black BMW X 9-seater MPV that roared through city streets along a route I didn't recognize. Kai and Chloe were shrieking at the glitters of the Metropolitan. Damien, lounging position, while the 2 little troublemakers tried to climb him like a jungle gym. And me? Well, I clutched my tote bag, silently praying the universe hadn't completely lost it, until we finally rolled up to the Cross's main villa. Since in the car, Damien had been radiating his, let's call them soothing pheromones. His pheromones somehow kept my anxiety from exploding during the whole ride, because this damn dude's lips were sealed tighter than Fort Knox on his intended game plan. Now, stepping onto the estate, he subtly switched the vibe, from soothing to mildly oppressive pheromones, just enough to make sure I didn't bolt. I could practically feel the invisible leash tightening as we crossed the main hall. Asher Green stood up the moment we entered, rushing toward Damien with perfect good wife energy. Damien, you're home, Asher said sweetly. That voice, I shuddered. And right beside him a little girl, maybe 4, shot past him, arms outstretched like wings, wanting to be scooped up. Papa, what took you so long? Little Anna Cross's voice sounded angry. Her little face, a perfect pouty princess, seemed to declare that the entire world existed just for her. Damien didn't miss a beat. He picked her up right away. Behind him, Kai and Chloe erupted, like in protest. Tiny tyrants, unable to comprehend why their father was cradling another child. I could almost hear their little hearts screaming betrayal. I watched the scene, heartwarming actually. Instagram ready. I squared my shoulders, scowled at Damien and snapped. All right. If you're trying to make your point, I get it. No objections. I'll take my leave now. Wish you all full happiness. I started to turn, ready to make my dramatic exit, but Damien's hand shot out and grabbed my waist, yanking me back like I was a stubborn puppy. Didn't I tell you Anna should have stayed in her room? Damien said sharply to Asher. The nanny swooped in like a SWAT trained, scooping up a fussing Anna and marching her upstairs. I stood there, suitcase in hand, silently wondering if I should applaud Damien's timing or roll my eyes at his control-freak theatrics, because he kept everyone weighted while he handled his mini chaos first. The bawling faded, replaced by silence. Damien's arms still gripped my waist as he began, voice steady, businesslike but respectful. Asher, this is Bia. And behind me are my children, Kai and Chloe. Asher's face was torn, emotions barely contained, but he composed himself and extended a hand. His eyes glistened. We finally meet, Asher said, voice thick with tears, then added softly, You have a beautiful smile. Believe me when I say I actually went. What the at that Asher's antics? Totally didn't expect a wife being courteous to a mistress. What's the meaning of this? Are you enjoying having your Omegas face off like this? I snapped at Damien. Damien's voice was calm, too calm. Asher and I will be divorced by tomorrow. But she will maintain the title of my wife until the election ends. I blinked. Damien, I told you before, whatever game you're playing, I refuse to be part of wrecking your family, especially stealing Anna's father. It's cruel and I won't stain my hands. Damien shrugged. Anna is not my child. Wait. What? I almost laughed out loud. Did I hear that right? Who just got cuckooed here? Who was actually wearing the green hat? My brain did a triple somersault. Damien didn't even flinch. Asher, like I mentioned earlier, you and Anna continue staying here. And you'll need to do your part when called upon. After making things clear, Damien scooped up the twins and led me out of the estate. I stole a glance back at Asher. Asher's figure seemed swallowed by the grand space. His hand hovered mid-air, suspended between wanting to reach and holding back. His face carried a fragile elegance tinged with sorrow, eyes shimmering with unspoken words, like he'd been made to watch his world quietly unravel. My chest tightened. Yeah, I knew that feeling, walking out of something good with Damien 5 years ago. An hour later, I arrived at the penthouse I had lived in during the Canary contract. Stepping inside was like opening a perfectly preserved time capsule. Everything was exactly as I remembered. My favorite cushion, sporting Lightning McQueen and Luigi's oversized faces, still sat on the sofa. The snake plant I had nurtured hadn't just survived, it now towered over me, proud in the corner, with the city skyline blinking behind it. The porcelain mandarin ducks remained perched like eternal sentinels on the big white dining table. My twin blue coffee mugs sat side by side on the countertop, and my apron still hung neatly on the rack. But my bedroom? Gone. Now the twins' domain. I raised an eyebrow. Is my bedroom in the storeroom? I teased, trying to mask the pang of loss with humor. Damien didn't flinch. His gaze locked on mine, unrelenting. You don't need a room to yourself anymore. Your place is in my bed. Before I could protest, he pulled me into him, completely ignoring the chaos of the little monsters screaming their lungs out in the specially set-up playroom, under the watchful eyes of 2 nannies. But what about Asher? I surprised myself by asking so calmly, as if I were being magnanimous. But don't get it twisted. I wasn't. Ugh, let me warn you, I don't do alpha sharing. Hell, I don't even share my Uber ride. Damien's expression didn't change. Asher didn't even know he was pregnant with his ex until after we married. Symptoms didn't show until the baby bump popped around 4 months. Lucky bastard, I sneered, remembering my own mornings carrying the twins I'd spent hugging the toilet like it was my bed. To keep appearances, we just acted like husband and wife until Anna was born, Damien continued, calm as ever. I blinked then laughed, loud and absurd. No wonder she looks nothing like you. Ha ha ha. Wait, so you're the one cuckooed? Ha ha ha. He shot me a deadpan look. You're one to laugh. It was devastating for me. I couldn't divorce him, yet I had to stay. Career, political party, election. His father's the chairman. But we'd been living apart all this time. I stayed here, but it was really hard for me. Every corner of this place reminded me of you. Suffocating. So, I sent out Batman. And then, all that waiting. Seeing you with Kai and Chloe. No Alpha in sight, your name was not on the North Bay Civil Bureau list. I lost it. I was ecstatic. That's how I found you. And came to get you. 7 months later, Damien lost the state election. The people voted for that dude named Donald, with the fake hair. Me? Did I secretly hope for it? Guilty as charged. But Damien wasn't even close to disappointed. Not at all. The real wins, the ones that mattered, were waiting for him just ahead, and he was in control to win them. With him fading out of the spotlight and heading back to his law firm, Asher quietly stepped aside, letting me officially take on the title of Mrs. Cross. At our wedding, 5-year-old Kai rocked his tiny tux, the tailcoat bouncing like a T-Rex tail. Chloe, meanwhile, was decked out like a tiny Venetian masquerade princess, wearing a dress her little aunties had made, with a trailing train stitched with plush pandas. Absolute showstoppers. Absolute heart-melters, flanking me down the aisle toward my alpha, while my own train made me look like a rising phoenix, erasing every last trace of my canary days. Later that night, I know what you're thinking. You're probably expecting this steamy first night as a married couple fantasy, right? I wish too. Reality check, I was sober-ish. Damien was more wasted than a law student after his finals. And wedged between our messy, crumpled wedding outfits were our 2 little chaos engines, aka the Dragon Bones Dissolver, a figurative term from Chinese, sprawled across us, lost in dreamland, each clutching their exclusive plush like it was a lifeboat. Kai's T-Rex, the overachieving little menace, refused to shut up, spouting its trained catchphrase, "I hate broccoli," every 30 seconds. I gave Damien a sharp kick, hoping he'd turn that damn T-Rex off. It was on his side of the bed. But that lawyer was too far gone. I let out a long sigh. And yep, that was it. My happily ever after.
So I've got this story, snagged from a case that didn't completely drive me insane and drain my soul dry, and then jazzed up with some twisted creative liberties for flavor. This story is meant to give you positive and mood-lifting insight and perhaps a little hope, maybe? Or let's be real, a legit excuse to cave into your couch, roasting in someone else's chaos and dodge your own dumpster fire of feelings.